So welcome everyone to the Small Business Webinar Series. Today we are going to be chatting about the Small Business Assistance Program. And my name is Heather McLean, and I am a Business Development Officer with Innovation PEI. So we'll get started. I just want to go over a little bit about who we are. So Innovation PEI is a Crown corporation that is under the Ministry of Economic Development, Innovation and Trade. And we are the lead economic development agency for the province. And we focus on accelerating economic development in PEI by investing in people, innovation, and infrastructure. And specifically what we do, so our goal is to build a stronger PEI by helping businesses create sustainable employment opportunities for Islanders. And to reach this objective, we offer financial supports that promote things like entrepreneurship, business development, expansion, investment, job creation, research and innovation, business attraction, trade, and export development. So today we're talking about the Small Business Assistance Program, which is part of our suite of small business supports. And this program is specifically designed to support activities that increase the productivity and competitiveness of small businesses. So it supports costs related to things like internal planning and processes. And if it is a new business, a business that has been operating for less than 12 months, the program also supports costs associated with marketing and promotional activities. So the eligibility criteria, it is if you are applying to use this program for something like a business plan, which is an eligible cost, you do not need to be a registered business. You do not need to be actively operating because, of course, you're still just in that exploratory phase where you're evaluating whether you want to start this business. But for any other aspects or uses of the program, your business should be registered to operate in Prince Edward Island in the PEI Business Registry. You should be actively operating, and the business should either be the owner's primary source of income or the business would be employing at least one employee for a minimum of 560 hours per year. So if this is, if you work full-time and you're operating a small side business, you would not be eligible to use the Small Business Assistance Program for those internal planning and processes criteria or marketing that we talked about. So who is ineligible? Ineligible applicants would include any business that has an outstanding debt obligation that is on file with the province's central default registry. Also ineligible are fishers, farmers, and realty companies, and that would include commercial and residential landlords, and banks and financial institutions, including companies like payday loan companies, check cashing, etc. So what type of activities and costs are supported? An eligible small business can access supports for professional fees, so up to $2,500 in eligible costs for things like a business plan or market research. So we do see this use a lot if people are in the process of deciding whether or not they're going to start their business and they might need some outside assistance from a third party to help them with things like whether it be market research or cash flow projections, etc. We will provide a grant of 50% of $2,500, so $1,250 in grants towards those fees. And professional fees also for things like operational efficiencies, internal planning or processes, quality assurance, or for those new businesses, marketing, a maximum of $5,000 in eligible costs. So we will be covering 50% of those costs. So that's the two tiers of the program. And some examples of eligible projects. So this is not an exhaustive list, but some examples would include if your business was planning to integrate new tools for communications, transactions, or for your operations, things like, IT or project management or systems integration services or solutions. So where you're contracting a third party to come in to do some sort of analysis on your business and recommendations for implementation that will improve your operations and your productivity. So another example of this is sometimes businesses might need some outside expertise to help with human resources planning. So they'd be doing some analysis and then maybe making some recommendations, things like creation of policies and procedures for ongoing implementation within your business is another common use of the program. We also support things like workflow studies and production and logistics planning. And if you are a new business, you could also have marketing expenses, which could include things like graphic design, signage, digital advertising, traditional advertising like radio or print. So those are all examples of potential uses for the Small Business Assistance Program. So the level of assistance that's available, it's 50% of your eligible costs, up to those maximums we talked about in the last slide for each different aspect of the program. So for things like a business plan, it would be a maximum of $2,500 and we would cover 50%. If it's for some of the other uses, it would be up to $5,000 in eligible expenses. And the maximum contribution in a grant that you can receive over a 2-year period is $4,000. So we do have, if you were a new business, for example, and you were applying for help with your business plan, and then you were also applying for support for your marketing and promotional activities, the maximum with both of those things would be $4,000. And then the combined project funding. So if you do have other sources of government funding, for example, maybe Skills PEI is contributing to some of your project, or maybe a COA or other types of funders, the maximum percentage that can be covered with government sources is 75% of your eligible expenses. So we would take a look at that. You would just disclose that in your application, and we would adjust our contribution accordingly. So how do you apply? Your first step should always be to speak to a business development officer to chat about the project that you have in mind, and just to ensure that you are applying for the correct program and that the expenses that you're planning are eligible. So you can reach out to just our general, visit our website, contact our general email or phone number, and you will be assigned to a business development officer who can chat with you about your specific project that you have in mind. And then once you're ready to apply, you can utilize our online application. And if you scan the QR code that's up on the slide right now, that will take you directly to that page. And you also have the option of requesting a printable application, or if you would like to sit down with a business development officer and fill in the application together, you could also book an appointment to do that. So I am going to go into the specific application and go through those steps. So if anybody would like to follow along, you can just scan that QR code, and we will begin to go through the application process. So this is the Small Business Assistance application. So I'm just going to go through a scenario where I am thinking about starting a business and I'm applying for support. So I will put in my business name, which is Heather's Plumbing, the contact information. I'm located on Main Street. So once you put in your contact information, you will have to provide an email address as well, and that is how you will receive notification of the status of your application. And this would be located in Kings County. And then the question is another person completing the application on the owner's behalf? So if your BDO was filling it out with you, they would select yes. If it was the spouse, for example, of the applicant, you would say yes and indicate who's filling it out. But in this case, it's a no. And then the mailing address is the same. And then we can proceed to the next page. So is this a new or existing business? This will be a new business. And is the income from this business the applicant's primary source of income? So I'm just thinking about starting this business. So in this case, I would say no. And the number of employees would be 0. And are you registered to do business in PEI? In this case, it is a no, but if it was a yes, it would ask you to put in your business registration number. So this is where a lot of people get hung up on the application. So if you're not operating yet, or if you're very new, you may not have revenue from any revenue yet. So your year-end date, let's just assume that the year-end date for your business is going to be the calendar year. So you're putting in your year-end date. And then what was the business's estimated annual gross revenue? It is 0. You can't leave that as 0. So you might just have to put in something like $1 just to bypass that part. And then it's going to ask you, what is the business's current gross revenue to date? So from January 1st on, again, it would still be that I hadn't earned anything yet. I'm still just exploring this idea. And then do you have export sales? So in this case, I'll be operating just on Prince Edward Island. So I would say no. And the form of business, so you have your options. In this case, it would be a sole proprietorship, but you can check off whatever is appropriate. And then your business category, so there's a number to choose from. If you don't see something that fits, you can just select other. And then you're providing a description of the business. So in this case, I am exploring opening a plumbing business in Eastern PEI. I am a Red Seal plumber, and I plan to service residential and commercial customers. So, and if you're already operating, we don't need your full business plan. You would just indicate where you operate, what type of services you provide, who you're serving, who your customer base is. So just a little bit of background about the business. So the main focus of this project, you have several options. So if it was a business plan, in this case, I'm going to check the first one, but you also have the option of selecting if you're doing market research, if you're doing human resources planning, if you're a new business, if it's marketing promotion, if it's quality and productivity improvements or other. So in this case, I'll check business planning and then provide a detailed description of the project. So in this case, I am planning to hire ABC Consulting to assist me with creating a business plan. And they will be doing market research and financial projections. So you're also going to be attaching a quote. So there would be detailed, the full detail of the actual deliverables would be in that quote. And then how this will benefit your business. In this case, this information will allow me to evaluate the viability of the business. And the plan will be essential for obtaining financing. If it was an HR plan, you would explain, this will assist me with developing some job descriptions, policies and procedures, help me with recruitment, whatever the objective of the project is. And then you're putting in your project start date. So you want the project to start obviously after the application date. So if I'm putting it in today, maybe I pick a date, a couple of weeks out, in the 1st of April. And then for the end date, even if you think the project will only take a few months, it's always good to give yourself a little bit of a window in case there's issues with your supplier, et cetera. So, you could put an end date maybe at the end of July. It just depends how long you think the project will take. Some projects can take 6, 8 months, et cetera. So you put those dates in, and then you would be putting in exactly the amount that of the quote within the category. So in this case, it is for a business plan. So this business plan, let's say it's going to cost $3,000. And then you're uploading the actual quote. So in this case, I will just pick a file to upload. This is where you put the quote. And then, will you be receiving funding from any other sources? So this is where you disclose if you do have other parties that are helping to fund the project, and you would indicate who they are and what percentage of funding they are providing. In this case, it's a no, and then there's a place to put any additional comments if you have them. You're agreeing to the conditions, proving you're not a robot, and then selecting preview. So this is the only time you're going to see the completed information, everything laid out of what you put in the application. So we highly encourage you to print it or print a PDF so that you have a copy of the application. So you can scroll through, make sure all the information is correct. And then when you do hit submit, you will get a service submission, a reference ID, a service ID, a submission ID. If you do not see this, that means there was an issue with submitting the application. So you want to make sure that you also have take a note of these numbers in case you have to follow up on your application. And it can take, say it could take several up to, anywhere from a few days to a week until someone might be getting back to you. And then if there is missing information, we will definitely let you know. We will definitely get back to you and ask any questions. So don't stress too much. We won't refuse the application if we're missing a little bit of information. We'll just come back to you and continue the process until we have everything that we need in order to process. And then you will be communicated with via email in terms of if your application is successful, you'll receive an email that indicates that you have been successful, and also will provide the claim information for how to make a claim once you've paid the expenses associated with your project.